Hello, everyone. I'm freelance video journalist Jonathan Khamis, being joined by Steve Fryer and Dan Albano, and we are here to talk about Week 7 in the OCVarsity Gridiron Show, and we'll start it off with our game of the week, as it's Mater Dei and Servite. This game will be at the Bowl in Santa Ana Friday night, prime ticket game. All eyes are on this one. Hey, Steve, for a long time, this rivalry was somewhat dormant. Hey, Mater Dei has been dominating this rivalry for, almost the last decade. The last time Servite beat Mater Dei was back in 2011, and the Friars are coming off an impressive loss. Yeah. So they almost beat St. John Bosco. I mean, come on, guys. So if Servite wants to put up the same kind of fight against Mater Dei, they have to do what, Steve?
I think they just have to keep believing in themselves. You know, Servite's a very young football team, a lot of sophomores all over the place. Servite might have just done Mater Dei a favor. If Mater Dei was looking ahead to October 25 when they play Bosco, they can't be looking ahead now. Those Mater Dei people, they probably saw this score and they go, oh my gosh, you know, we better be ready to play Servite. Maybe Bosco is looking ahead a little bit toward October 25 as well. But I think Mater Dei now knows that Servite's legit, man, and they got to bring their A game, you know, if they're going to win again. And, you know, of course, Mater Dei is going to be favored. I'm picking them to win. I'm sure Dan will too. But impressed by Servite. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, your thoughts on Servite last week. And, hey, we can't forget about Mater Dei. They trounced Orange Lutheran 51-14. They did what they were supposed to do. And your thoughts on this matchup, Dan?
Well, there's a couple of really interesting matchups. For Servite, offensive line is going to be key in this game. One of the remarkable stats that came out of that game last week for the Friars is that they did not allow Noah Fifita to be sacked once against St. John Bosco, number 2 ranked team in the country. And then another interesting matchup, I think, for Mater Dei. Defensively, they got a couple of studs back last week against Olu, a couple sit-out period guys, transfer-wise, that were back. None other than All-County Moses Sepulona. He was excellent with the safety. He's back. Tupi is another outstanding defensive tackle. He is back. So their defense is stronger, but I'm looking at how the Monarchs match up at the cornerbacks. How's Jalen Davies and how's Damani Jackson, who, by the way, had a pick 6 last week, how are those guys going to do in the matchup with T-Mac McMillan, who Bosco had no answer for, and how they going to do about Zedekiah Centers, who's catching touchdowns on everybody. So a couple interesting matchups. I'm picking the Monarchs. Tough task for the Friars to go back to back. Are you kidding me? Number 1 in the country now, 1 week after playing number 2 in the country. This is a brutal schedule, and I think the Monarchs are going to be ready for the Friars.
Of course. Hey, you know a lot about Trinity League football, Dan.
That was that was the condensed version of the Trinity League podcast.
I was just going to say, for more, subscribe to his podcast.
Can you slice that up for me? I'll post it on my Twitter.
Nope, it's all out there. All right, we're going to the Sunset League now, guys, where it's 4-2 Edison. They are on the road. They're going to play 6-0 Corona Del Mar at Newport Harbor High School. Last week, Edison beat Los Al 42-21. They had 247 yards on the ground. Steve, Corona Del Mar is undefeated, and they're undefeated for a reason. They've beaten quality teams, and they have it all, don't they?
They sure do. You know, Garber's throwing the football, and Schlamm and Humphreys and Redmond, et cetera, catching the football. Pretty sophisticated high school level, passing game over there at CDM. You know, Edison, I talked to Coach Jeff Grady a while ago. For Edison, you know, they have to control the clock, make sure that they don't let the CDM get the ball too much. That means Mike Walter's going to have to be a very productive game running the football for him. Their O-line, which was really good when I've seen them play a couple times, they have to keep going. They got a really good center, Parsons, over there. I like that football player. And, and Boyles, you know, he's a young kid, junior quarterback, done very well managing the game. He's going to have to hit some passes and also run it some, too, to keep CDM honest. But it's all about, you know, moving the chains, controlling the football for Edison. They're going to win this game. I see Corona Del Mar, getting to 7-0. They look pretty gosh darn unstoppable at this point.
Okay, and Dan, CDM, they had 6 touchdowns last week in a victory against Huntington Beach. Corona Del Mar has defeated Edison in the past 2 years. Do you see that streak continue?
I do. I think for Edison, they got to take a page out of the playbook of Servite as far as how the Friars approached Bosco last week, and they had a good job of time possession, set the tone in the first half. Braden can do that with running the ball. They've also developed Mateo Liao, rising junior, who's done well. Last week, 14 carries, 78 yards. Take some of that pressure off Mike Walters, who's also, their top, defensive player at linebacker. So I think, and I talked to Jaime Ortiz, San Clemente coach, who's, the Tritons have played both of these teams, and he mentioned what Fryer mentioned about how Edison's got to be physical on the line of scrimmage, probably try to keep that high-powered CDM offense off the field. But I think, CDM, they're veterans now a little bit in the Sunset League, and I think they're going to get the win. But I think this could be a pretty competitive game.
Yeah.
All right, you mentioned Jaime Ortiz. Hey, there's a pretty good video about an all-access thing that happened last weekend. Check it out on YouTube. Cheap plug. All right, our final game of the week, guys, and I'm really excited about this one. I think this has the potential to be one of the best games all year, seriously. 6-0 St. John Bosco. They will be visiting 5-1 JSerra in their last meeting. St. John Bosco won 35-28, but let's not forget, guys, JSerra actually led at one point in that game. That was in the second quarter. Steve, for JSerra to maybe pull off an upset, some would say, to beat St. John Bosco at home, this would be a remarkable win for that program. They have the guys to do it, but what is it going to take?
Yeah, one thing they have to do is Servite was able to put some pressure on DJ Ugalele last week. I got a couple sacks on him. Tristan Wilson had one of them. Guys coming off the edge, putting some pressure on. If JSerra can do that, and they have some good dudes all over the place, maybe they can get a W against Bosco. But I expect a business-like approach from Bosco. But gosh, JSerra certainly, they can do it. They've obviously seen what Servite can do, and that Bosco's not infallible. It's going to be very interesting to see what JSerra does. One thing they have to do, I think they're going to have to throw the ball a little more effectively. They really haven't unloaded that game. Street and Green have been running the football pretty good for the JSerra Lions, but I think they have to throw the ball and stretch the field a little bit against Bosco if they're going to get a W. But, yeah, I'm picking Bosco in this one.
Yeah, that lack of a passing attack. JSerra beat Santa Margarita last week 35-3. They only had 10 passing attempts, no touchdowns, but they had 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground. As you mentioned, Sammy Green getting it done. Dan, does JSerra pick up the victory here and probably upset Bosco? Or does, hey, like Steve said, Bosco, you don't wake up the sleeping dragon?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Bosco. This game is very interesting. I agree with you, Jonathan. It is a very interesting game. I like that matchup, JSerra's defense against Bosco, because the JSerra defense, I think, has played really well this year. I certainly like their linebackers and Jaden Genova and Malaki Teo, and they have some push on the defensive line, and they're pretty good in the secondary. That's a pretty good defense. The matchup where I start to wonder, I think concerns me for the Lions is offensively, where they're seeming one-dimensional as far as their success. Last week it was Sammy Green with, the 13 carries, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also had 2 catches for 74 yards. That they haven't had the dynamic playmakers at the passing game. But, one I think fantasy could be for the Lions faithful if Chris Street has been saving up. He's been quiet the last couple weeks. And if he comes and has an incredible game, 25, 30 carries, if he's been saving it all up, that could certainly cause some trouble. They can keep DJ off the field, just like, Servite kind of did with Bandy in the first half. So, and General Booty running the ball too could help keep. Yeah, he's a good runner. They don't have that, but I think General Booty's a better runner than Noah Fafita, who had some success on a couple runs last week. So there's some things JSerra has to do, but I'm thinking that Bosco is going to have more composure this week. They're going to start faster. They started slow, and but I think that's another great game.
Tell you my analysis. You got 2 of the best named quarterbacks in Southern California going at it, and DJ Ugalele and General Booty, right, Steve? That's my analysis.
Yeah, that's really good. And also, I like Dan's scholarly look with the glasses. Do you like that?
I love it, and I love that we're all wearing blue. I don't know what that means.
That's my blue shirt from last week.
Well, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Wash that thing and make sure you get it back.
Do you wear medium?
Any of these teams got blue in their color scheme?
I was thinking the same thing. CDM, yeah, well, go CDM, I guess. Maybe not. All right, thanks to Steve Fryer. Thanks to Dan Albano. I'm Jonathan Khamis, and we'll see you at the games. Maybe not me. I might be at Dodger Stadium.